You can sit on the floor or another. Understood, you three? Okay. All right. And Jackson Cooperman is here. He is the filmmaker about, I was starting the story with Van Damme. 2 summers ago, Jackson showed up and he said that he was going to make a film in another school, but the other school had some summer activity and they could not have him bring his crew and do the movie there. So as you can see in the movie, the outside of the school is not our school. It's the school that maybe was the original school. So he came in, and in the summer it's very quiet and a little dark, and all the classes are closed. And he said, "Can I use one of the classes to make the movie?" And Sumira was here, and we talked to him, and we said, "Why not?" Okay, so after a week or 2, he brought his crew, the actors came, and it was fascinating. I've never seen really in person a movie being made. All the cameras, and they had tons of equipment outside every morning. They did it for 1 week, back and forth, and every little scene took so long, a little conversation between the teachers, and every time I saw the same picture, all of them sitting and repeating the same line. So it's very tedious to make a movie. At the end, we see something very exciting, but it really takes a lot of work and repeating. And I think it's probably exhausting for everybody, right, Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'll talk more in detail about that.
Yes. So you're going to watch the movie, and as I said, the theme is a little bit serious. That's why only for the 7 and the 8 grade are here, and I didn't want to have the 5 and 6 here. And you will have questions for Jackson, and the person who plays the teacher is going to come, and you have questions for her. You will have questions for her. Okay? And the floor is yours.
All right, thank you all for coming, and thanks Noga for having me over here. So my name is Jackson, and I'm a writer, producer, director from Millington, New Jersey. It's about 20 minutes away. And this is my very first feature-length film, and we had the pleasure of filming it right here in the school, right down the hall. And so anyway, this movie is about it's an autobiographical story about when I was 11 and when I was in middle school. So growing up, most of my teachers, there weren't that many teachers that really stood out in my mind. There was only maybe like 2 or 3, but most of them I already forgot. But when I was in 6th grade, I had this language arts teacher, and she gave us a lecture one day on creative writing, and she brought up the concept of daydreaming. Now, probably in most of your classes, if you're caught looking out the window or wandering off in space, like you get in trouble for it, right? You get like written up. Well, she was the exact opposite. She actually encouraged that it's a good thing to let your mind wander and not necessarily tune out from your environment, but tune into yourself. And she gave us an assignment one day, I remember, to go home and not write, but to just sit against a tree in the backyard and just daydream. And it really made an impact on me, and I didn't realize until much later. About 2 years ago, I was cleaning out some of my old stuff out of my closet, and I came across an essay that I wrote in her class that I talked about how daydreaming was an influential learning tool that I learned in her class. And so I got inspired to write this screenplay, and at first I just did it for fun. But then a few weeks later, I decided I'll email it to her and see what she thinks. And we met up for a cup of coffee. We talked for a couple hours, and we decided about the possibility, what if we actually make this movie for real? So 4 months later, we were filming it, and not only that, but the teacher herself plays the starring role in the film. And many movies have been made about like inspiring teachers and stuff, but they're always portrayed by, a professional actor or actress. But this is the first film that I know of where the actual real-life teacher herself plays her own role in the movie. So we broke new ground with it, and I told she was hesitant at first because she had never acted before. She was just a teacher, but I was convinced that she could do it. And she was always very animated. Like, she was funny and she was inspiring when she taught her classes, and I was convinced that she could do it up on film. So we went ahead with it, and I think she did a great job. And 2 years later, we finished the end product, and I'll go into more details afterwards about the process and everything. But what kind of movies do you guys generally like? Do you like action movies? Yeah. Horror movies? I love horror movies. But how many of you like character dramas? A couple of people? Yeah. Well, that's what this movie more is. And 90% of the movies that come out now are action. You know, it's always about plot, action, moving the story forward. It's more about entertainment than reflection. And I specifically tried to go against that trend with this movie. This movie is a very small cast. There's only 3 main characters in the movie. There's an 11-year-old boy who's portraying me, his teacher, and the boy's father. And there's only 2 relationships in the movie. There's the teacher-student relationship and the father-son relationship. And by stripping everything down and making it much more simple, the ideas actually really resonate with you a lot more. So, you know, when you watch an action movie, it's entertaining in the moment, right? But usually the second you turn it off, you go right about your life, and you don't really think about it much afterwards. And while a movie like this might be a little more slower, and maybe even boring at times, it reaches something deeper. You know, maybe like a day later, a few days later, you might think about, oh, that made sense. You know, it's these simple human stories that actually hit a lot harder than just like, you know, fast-paced like car chase movies. But yeah.
What was the process for getting funding like?
I was working full-time, 6 days a week at the time of filming, and I had to pay for it. I couldn't get it because, you know, I'm a first-time filmmaker. I've only made a few short films in college, and nobody would have given me funding for this movie unless you're like in Los Angeles. Maybe you could find a production company, but I had to finance the whole thing, and we made it very cheaply, in film language. It's like in the film world, $1 million, that's considered cheap to make a movie off of. I don't know if you guys know, most movies are made on like well over $50 or $100 million. And this movie was made on nothing close to $1 million, but it was so bare bones. And we barely had any time. The whole thing was shot in 6 days. And it makes it difficult, but a lot more relies on the acting and the script in that case. So anyway, I'm not going to talk too much longer. I'll let you guys watch it. But afterwards, we're going to have a teacher that stars in the movie come over, and she's going to talk about her experience in the movie and answer any questions you guys might have. So thanks a lot for coming, and I hope you enjoy it.